Welcome back. Well, let's unpack this decision by Donald Trump to withdraw US troops from northern Syria. Professor of International Security and Intelligence Studies at the Strategic Defence Studies Centre, John Blaxland, joins me here in the studio. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me on the program, Tom.
So Turkey has long wanted to launch military action against Kurdish forces in the north of Syria. Does this US troop withdrawal, there's only 1,000 of them or so, but it's the sort of, no one would dare strike against the US apart from terror groups. This basically allows Turkey to do what it wants here. Is that going too far?
Probably a little bit too far. There's only a couple of hundred US troops in that area. I think what we're seeing here is the Trump administration playing a little bit of domestic politics, a bit of a distraction, but also an
distraction from his own problems.
From his own domestic political problems with the talk of impeachment and the way the Ukrainian relations issue is unfolding poorly. So trying to be proactive and taking another foreign policy initiative with Turkey is possibly something that Donald Trump weighs as being useful and constructive. He's been wanting to do a deal with Erdogan in Turkey for a while now. All of his advisors have been urging to the contrary because they, by and large, are saying, look, the horse has already bolted. The Turks have already made concessions to Russia. They bought the S-400 missile defence system, which basically has compromised the F-35 program.
Well, let's talk about this deal from the US side. What are they hoping to get out of a deal that you say they can't possibly get now?
What they can't get out of Turkey, you mean? Well, look, the thing is with Turkey is really important to the United States' presence in the Middle East. Incirlik Air Base, it's a major air base in southeastern Turkey that houses thousands of US Air Force troops from which they operate across the Middle East. While that's not directly threatened by the shenanigans that's been going on in the last few months, the bottom line is that US-Turkish relationships have been really nosediving in the last year or so, and my sense is that this is Trump's attempt to revive them, to rescue them.
But what you're saying is Turkey has already reached out to Russia to such an extent, this is not going to have the desired effect.
I don't think so, no. And if anything, the other justification Trump's used for going down this path is that the Islamic State group has been defeated. Now, I think that's a little bit a dangerous statement to go around making because there have been a number of indicators in the Middle East that the Islamic State group is on a resurgence and that there's a whole lot of overlapping and factors that contribute to feeding off each other to give the ISG, as they're now calling them, a hope of some kind of resurgence and prospects of significantly regaining momentum in the Middle East and elsewhere from what could unravel from the disorder that could arise from the space we're seeing there, with Turkey operating, possibly with the US withdrawing, the Kurds possibly stepping back from monitoring of the...
because they're in self-survival mode at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what about the Kurdish people and the plight of them now? They did help defeat ISIS. They were seen as instrumental there, now seemingly going to be abandoned. I mean, at one point people were talking about maybe we need a real Kurdistan as almost a reward for that, and now we're a long way from that.
Yeah, well, Kurdistan is very, very difficult to generate because of the objections of Iraq and Turkey, two countries which the United States has come to rely on support for its very presence in the Middle East as well. So it's always been a very long shot that the Kurdistan would emerge. There was hope that maybe they could have carved one out of Syria, but with the way the war in Syria has panned out, that seems all the more remote now. So the Kurds are really, the unloved cousins, if you like. But the tragedy is that there's global ramifications from this because the message is very, very clear. These Kurds who've been basically the United States' principal ally in the fight against Daesh or IS, and now the Islamic State group in Syria, are now look like being thrown under a bus for the expedience of Donald Trump's apparent negotiations with President Erdogan.
And they've been such extraordinary fighters. I wanted to ask you about the white paper. The minister is now saying the world has changed more quickly than anticipated. This is only from 3 years ago. What's changed?
Well, as you know, Tom, quite a lot's changed in the last 3 years. 2016...
I guess what's changed in an unforeseen sense.
Yeah, well, even Trump's presidency was unforeseen. It wasn't anticipated that he would take the steps he had. Even with a Trump victory, there was a sense that he would probably return to being more of a normal president once the rhetoric died down. The substance of that is that he hasn't been that president. He's been one that has been quite a disruptor. It's been an underminer of the sense of confidence in world order that many have we Australia have come to rely on. Mm. But the other thing, of course, is what we've seen and the most visibly manifested with the 70th anniversary parade in Beijing, where Xi Jinping presided over a spectacular display of Chinese military prowess with a very strong message, not just for domestic political consumption in China, but internationally about China's rise.
So do you think, has that trajectory changed even from 2016? I mean, I guess since then you've had President Xi declaring himself leader for life, right? Mm. So you think things have changed that much from China's perspective, or how we see China in that short time? Well,
in the last 3 years, we've seen China much more assertive. We've seen it much more assertive in Southeast Asia, the bases in Cambodia, the assertion in the South Pacific that's rattled Australian foreign policy, its actions including in Papua New Guinea, its consolidation of its grip in the South China Sea, its intimidation of Vietnam, its quite aggressive posturing rhetorically in a way that's completely rattled Duterte in the Philippines, to the point where he's basically saying there's no point, we give in. Why? Because we're going to get defeated by China.
Yeah.
So he's fallen for this rhetoric that is matching the changed dynamics, which is a massive increase in spending by China and a massive investment in technology.
And does this all lead to us having to ramp up our spending? Is that where we're getting to with these hints from the minister?
Yeah, I think so. The bottom line is that this is not just about the old conventional hard power anymore, because we've seen in the meantime my own university, the ANU, subject to a cyber attack, which most pundits will acknowledge as being from China, even though the Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor don't want to specifically go there. The bottom line is that Parliament itself has been subject to attacks, which most pundits are now saying is from China. We are seeing China much more assertive in that space, in the cyberspace. We are seeing the development of artificial intelligence and computing power that is quantum computing that is changing the equation significantly, undermining our confidence in security. So there's the hard power dimension. And of course, there's talk, there's one of the things Linda Reynolds has been criticised for is the $90 billion being spent at the moment on hardware, on new hardware.
And whether there's too much locked in there.
Yeah, that's right.
John Blaxland, I'm sure we'll pick up on that another day. Thank you for your time, mate.
Thank you for having me on the program.